ever see beautiful orchids in full bloom when you're visiting the home of friends and think, I don't get those results at my place? Well, I'm here to help you achieve that very thing. You see, I'm in the Royal Botanic Gardens in Sydney, and if there was anywhere to learn how to grow beautiful orchids, this is the place to visit. This is the exhibition space in the calyx at the Botanic Gardens, and it features this enormous vertical garden, one of the largest in the world, 50 metres long and 6 metres high. And you'll notice the misters are on, increasing the humidity, and the temperature is kept permanently between 24 to 27 degrees. And it features amazing plants and incredible orchids of amazing colours. If you want to grow beautiful moth orchids like these, you'll need to create similar growing conditions. Now, you can't install misters and foggers like that in your lounge room, but you certainly can give them a little bit of a spray. That will help just to increase the humidity. Alternatively, put your orchid pots on a tray of gravel and add some water to the gravel. That'll increase the humidity, keeps those tropical orchids happy. Another quality that orchids need is good light. Some of them like a lot of light and others like less. And it's a little bit tricky. So how can you tell? Well, have a look at the leaves. If they're nice and lush and green and not pale or burnt, then you'll know that the plants are happy. And the colours are spectacular, although the brides love the white one. Children tend to go for the apricot, and everybody loves these purple ones. When the flower finishes, like a lot of orchids, people get out the secateurs, prune the flower spike down, and then start feeding it, and wonder why they never get any more flowers. Don't prune the flower spike off at all, because it'll reflower at least twice on that same flower spike. Now, we've taken you behind the scenes to show you some really special plants. If you live in a warm part of Australia, from Broome to Darwin, Townsville, down to Brizzy, anywhere associated with the Tropic of Capricorn, or you want to build a glasshouse and heat it, then you can grow tropical orchids almost endless in quantity. These are slipper orchids because of this little slipper here at the front. But the range of colours and shapes is really quite spectacular in the 21st century. I've never seen some of these before. They are really, truly beautiful. And this one here is really special. This is one of those purpley and white forms of the dancing lady, an oncidium. Now, remember when I took you to Singapore a few years ago? Talk about dancing ladies there. They had orchids growing outside because it's a tropical, really hot and humid and very, very warm part of the world. Now, when you get into the hot, steamy, tropical jungles, orchids tend to go a little bit weird. Look at this one. This is Bulbophyllum from Papua New Guinea, and it's called the tongue orchid, and you can see why. It's got a tongue like a rhinoceros. Look at these huge leaves. But even stranger are the bulbs. Look at the size of the bulb. It's as big as a knuckle or a hand. It really is a massive, great plant. Interestingly, when it comes into flower, it stinks. It has a shocking smell, something like rotting meat, and that's to attract flies, which are the pollinators. Now, orchids don't only grow in pots. Many of them are epiphytic, which means they'll grow just about on anything. An old tree fern stump. There's a bit of bark underneath here. And how about this little fella? A tube, a steel tube filled with really chunky bark. Botanic gardens are very complex places, and they include laboratories like this. Now, surprisingly, they're not all alive, the plants that they research. Some of them are what we call plant pressings, and they've been used right the way through history to identify plants from the past and still into the future. For example, when Joseph Banks came here in 1770 on the Cook expeditions, they collected lots of plant pressings. They still use them today to identify plants that are discovered in the bush and in the wild. There's a team of people behind the scenes doing that work so that you can have the very best orchids to grow. For those that live in cooler parts of Australia, up on mountain ranges and the like, there are plenty of orchids that you can grow as well. You just need to select the right forms. There are some cymbidiums that'll grow there really well, native dendrobiums. Randy is one of the horticulturists here at the Royal Botanic Garden, Sydney, and he knows heaps about growing orchids. Some tips on growing orchids you can pass on.
Watering early in the day. Whichever time of the year it is, whichever orchid species you're dealing with, it's good to do it in the morning and let it drain.
You know, there is a reason why the Cymbidium orchid is the most commonly grown orchid in Australia. It's a really tough little plant, and I just love this mustardy coloured one. There is a bit of a trick about repotting them, and you need to repot them when the flower finishes about this time of the year.